Hey there, my name is Tabitha Caro, and in this video we are going to edit our product photos with Snapseed and make them pop and have that nice white background. You'll want the Snapseed app, and if you want the actual photo that I use to edit, you can grab that along with the Snapseed app link in the description. Now let's get started. So we're going to tap to open. And the first thing I like to do is let's tap the edit icon, which is where all of your tools are. And I like to go to tune image and just kind of adjust things a little bit. Now the way it works in Snapseed is you can auto adjust, which actually made that look worse, or you can click on adjust. And to get to each of the different tools, you just swipe up or down. And then once you select a tool, so if we select brightness is already selected, then to increase or decrease, you go left or right. So that is pretty much what you do all the time here in Snapseed. So I'm going to go ahead and just play around. I usually do some brightness. Ambience can go either way, but it can really make a difference. As you can see, actually, if I decrease it, the background becomes whiter. Highlights for sure. Shadows. It really depends. Sometimes you think you want to get rid of shadows, but sometimes it helps increase the darkness in, for example, the blacks in this notebook or in my iPhone, things like that. So just depends. Warmth, if your place where you were shooting had a lot of sunlight, sometimes you can have that yellow. So a little bit to the left will cool it down. Sometimes though, if you use artificial lighting, it will look really blue in your background. So then you would maybe want to increase the warmth. This seems pretty balanced. So once I have gone through all of those, then I will save. And the cool thing is you can make this a preset. So what you'd want to do is go to the little rainbow icon and go all the way to the plus sign. Give it a letter. So I'm just going to make it be A. So then when you open up your next photo, you would just go to the rainbow, tap A. It's going to automatically do those initial adjustments, so you don't have to do that over and over again. So this saves a lot of time when you're doing your product photos and you have a bunch to edit. And if they were all done in the same lighting, same environment, then you can make those initial adjustments to all of them, and that will help save time. So now we are going to go back to the edit, and I do also like to go to rotate. This is more like if when you're doing mock-ups, I have to just make sure that wherever I'm going to have an image be layered on top, a screenshot, I just need to make sure that that object is straight. So this, for this paper, for example, I'm just looking at the grid lines and making sure that they match up with the edges of the paper. I do the same thing for an iPad. So that may not be an issue depending on what you're doing. If you feel like things are a little bit blurry, like the text may not be as defined as you want, then details is also something you might want to do. You have structure and sharpening, or if you don't select any of those, you can just increase both of those tools at the same time and they will sharpen things for you. I do that sometimes. In this picture, it doesn't really need it. Now the major tools you definitely want are selective and brush when it comes to making things pop and getting that white background. Selective lets you get to certain areas and brighten them and not all of the photo, which would fade out the color, the definition, and not look great. So the way this tool works is you select any place in your photo that you want to brighten. So I'll go right here this whole white area could use some brightening, and I'm leaving a little, let's call it a button or a circle. And now I can edit tools with this little circle in this area. So like we do in Snapseed, you can go up and down. You've got brightness, contrast, saturation, structure. I usually only use brightness for this, so you don't even have to select a different tool within it because brightness is first. So don't even worry about that. I don't want to be confusing. But then we're going to slide right and just increase, and as you can see, the white background is increasing. Now you can go way more, but as you can see, I start to lose my penguin's rosy little cheeks, so I don't want to go too far. Usually for me, it just depends on how good the lighting was initially, but usually around 20-30 is good enough. Another thing you want to check is, especially if you have like a white product page, you don't want to wash it out trying to get the background white. So you can adjust how far this edit reaches or extends by using your crabby pinchers. I really need to find a way to say that. But see, as I'm going in and out, that redness is where it's affecting the area that's affecting. So I could have it go way over, but usually I like to keep it just in the general area where it is. So then I can select it, copy if I wanted to, and just tap another white area, paste, get your pinchers, see how far you want it to go. And you can do this, you can copy and paste up to 8 circles at a time, and then you can pick the tool again. So it will stop you at 8 for some reason. And honestly, a lot of times I like to go ahead and do the check mark if I'm happy with what I've done, because sometimes something will happen and mess up what I've been working on and I lose all of those edits. So you could check mark, go back to the pencil, go back to selective, and work again. So I'm going to go here in the corner, and you don't have to copy paste, you can just keep adding here. Now this, wherever you put the circle, it will edit the color of that circle. So as you can see here, it's not touching at all the black and the red here, which most of the time is good so it doesn't wash things out. But let's say like I don't really like how bold that shadow is on the notebook, so then I would need to add, and if I push it, it will give me a circle here, a magnifying circle to see exactly where I am. So now you see that the color is gray right there. Now I know that anything that's close to that color will be affected by the changes in that area. So I'm gonna just brighten that up a little bit. Okay, I feel like maybe here in the corner I could do one. Now, if you are obsessed with wanting that background to be pure white, here's a little hack on how to check that. You go to the pencil, you go to expand, make sure white is selected, and then what you can do is just kind of stretch out the edges and see if it all blends with the white. If that background is not pure white, you'll see the edges. This gets a little OCD, which I don't want to encourage in anybody, but I do want you to know, like, sometimes you'll have all white and then there's this one like gray mucky spot that you didn't notice. So that can be helpful to see where you might have some spots that you missed. Then you don't want to save it, obviously, you just X out. And I feel really good on the edits that I made on this. Now if I want to get in, let's say you have some objects that have some pretty bad shadows and the selective tool is only getting the white part, it's not getting those shadows. This is when I like to go into the brush tool. So I select brush, I select exposure, And 0.7 is good. You can increase it to 1.0. You can decrease it to 0.3. But we'll go ahead with 0.7, and I'm going to zoom in. You always want to zoom in as much as possible when you use the brush tool to get those details. So I'm just going to go right here and brush in. And if I'm not sure where I'm actually treating the edits that I've made, I can go to mask, and that shows me what I've touched with the brush. So I'm just going to go here, and it's okay if you accidentally like go on the black here, like let's say I accidentally go too much, because you can erase it. Now there's no eraser button. You have to go and decrease all the way to 0. When you decrease to 0, then it becomes eraser. So that's what I'm going to do, because you really want to try to keep your blacks black and your colors, you really don't want to wash them out in the quest for bright white product photos. Now you see here I kind of went too much, so I am going to go back to 0.7, and then I can unmask to see what do I think. So I think it's pretty good. You can do this over and over again as many times as you want to kind of layer on and get it naturally white. You could go to 1.0, but you have to be careful, because sometimes that you can kind of really tell the difference between what I brushed and what I didn't. So I like to kind of just start at 0.7, and let's go back to what I had. Yep, see now I kind of, I'm going to go back. I like to just go ahead and save and then do another brush layer and kind of do a build up, a gradual build up of whitening, so that it doesn't, you can't tell, it doesn't look unnatural. So I'm going to go ahead and put mask on so that I, oops, and I have this at 0.3, which is fine. Sometimes you just want to do it a little bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Shadows are not horrible. Shadows actually make sure that your photo looks like a real photo and not a graphic. So I'm actually going to leave that light shadow on that notebook. And then at any time when you want to see before and after, you can just press. And as you can see, that really makes a good difference. The one last thing you might want to do is crop, because sometimes the shot you took with your camera may be too far out, and sometimes cropping is really good at getting in close to your product. But first, what I would actually do is save this, so you can go ahead and save the edits onto the original photo if you want to, or you can save a copy if you want to see before and after, or sometimes you're just not sure if you did a good job. If you like it, then you would save a copy so that you still have that original. Okay, now we'll try cropping. So we'll go right here to crop, and here's where you could also do the different sizes. So let's keep it at square or original, and then you would just go in with the corners and then position it around. You can't actually move the background photo, you have to move the cropping corners. So then I could go in, use the grid lines, so maybe right there, and then you see it just makes the center focal point more obvious, which a lot of times you want with your products. So then we would save. Now lastly, if you want a 9:16 crop, you're going to have to first make this not square, because the default will be to do a horizontal crop 16 by 9 and not 9 by 16. So what you need to do is just go to original, let's go to free. We're just going to bring in just a little bit just to make this more portrait and not landscape. Then we will check mark it. Now when we go to crop, when we go to 16 by 9, now you get vertical cropping. So you can crop that however you want. This would just be a nice little background, maybe for a text message, or maybe just a peek at your product as well for stories, reels, Pinterest, and so on. So we'll save that. And now we are done. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Definitely subscribe. Let me know what else you'd like to see and get help with for your TPT products. And I'll see you in the next video.